What's going on, guys? It's Caesar here. I'm bringing you guys another video. Today we're going to be showing you how to powder coat a set of beadlocks. These wheels are made in Florida. Shout out to my boy Damon. On this particular set, we're going to be powder coating them in two colors: Illusion Light Blue and Gloss Black. Now on these wheels, they're a little bit different than most or your typical wheels. These are made up of 4 pieces. You have a rear barrel, which is the biggest piece. You have a front lip. You have a seam in the middle where you have to seal with silicone. Then you have the front face, which transfers the power to the tires. Now here's the beadlock ring. This is basically what holds the tire onto the bead. Kind of gives you like a seal, and it also makes it where your tire doesn't spin. These are drag wheels, so you have to warm up your tires when you spin, off the line. Now here are the center caps. On these, we're going to be doing all gloss black. Now these wheels are pretty cool. Here we have a set of titanium hardware. It is lighter than your ARP hardware. It also looks a lot better in my opinion. So luckily these wheels already have the titanium hardware. We're gonna be washing them, and then we can get started with the disassembly process. They're not like most wheels like you see there, monoblocks, where they're just one big piece. They break off into basically 4 pieces, 5 pieces if you count the center caps also, which are also billet aluminum. Here we got Zane. Shout out to Zane. He's going ahead and taking them apart, just taking off all those titanium bolts. It's relatively easy to do this as long as you have some sort of power gun, a snap-on impact drill or something like that, or any brand, as long as it's pretty powerful. Then here you got the lips. You have the rear barrels. I'm gonna show you here how we do it, how we break them off after he takes off the faces. Boom, boom. Now you have the faces off. You just drop it down. Then I'm gonna be taking over here. What I do is I just take a knife and I just take that knife down the seam where the silicone goes. You can see me do that here shortly. I basically just cut the silicone in half just to make it easy for us to separate them. I throw them on this roller so I could just spin the wheels and barrels as I'm cutting. Just makes it a lot easier. I just follow the same line. Once I have the cut all the way around, should just be able to split like that. And these wheels have a gasket in between. I haven't seen any other set of wheels from beadlock that have a gasket. This is a first. I was actually pretty surprised, and I don't know if this is something new from beadlock or something old, but not all of them have this, and I've done many of beadlocks in the past. Now here, we already washed them. We're gonna throw them in the oven for about an hour or so to outgas. Then we're gonna move on to the blaster. In the blaster, what we're doing is just etching the metal, cleaning it up, just to make that powder adhere very well. Alright, so now we're spraying the blue. You're gonna see me there in the booth spraying the windows specifically. On the beadlock rings, we'll be spraying out the melt areas. And on the lips, since they're gonna stay blue, we're gonna be spraying the whole entire lip. And we're just gonna come back and vacuum where the beadlock ring goes, or where the tire sits. Now, we prefer to wipe off these areas as these are racing wheels. So for example, wherever you see that lip is bare aluminum, that's where the tire sits. And most of the time, you want that to be raw metal, since it does have a cutout on it for more grip. So if you were to leave that powder, chances are the tire could slip when they're doing a burnout or something like that. So we just take that extra precaution to make sure they the wheels perform whenever they're put back together. Now we're going to be vacuuming out the holes where the beadlock ring bolts up to. You have to be careful so you don't vacuum over the holes and leave exposed areas. This is relatively a pretty time-consuming process. We have to do it twice for each item for the blue, and since they have to be clear coated, we have to repeat the process. On the faces, we have to, as you can see, wipe the backs where they bolts up to the hub, inside where the center cap goes, and around the face where it mates up to the lips. Same thing goes for the lips in the back. You see they're all raw metal. Here you can see us wiping the backs, the center bore where the center cap goes. And this just ensures that the wheels are perfect by the time they go back together. You won't have any fitment issues or anything like that. Now they go in the oven for a bake. Break time. This is Zane C10, as you can see, is on bags. We like to just go outside and admire whenever we have a break. Comment down below what you think of this truck. Would you get one? What's your favorite year? Now, since the wheels are cured, we go back in, let them cool down, and we're ready to throw on the clear. Now, when we're doing the clear on these, I like to kind of touch on pricing, right? So, as you can see, we have many different items going to each wheel. Every single set of wheels could be priced differently. For example, if they don't want two-tone beadlock rings, or they don't want two-tone faces, if they want two-tone or three-stage center caps, you know, if the lips are going some crazy color that requires polishing, etc. You know, there are so many combinations when it comes to these wheels. So you kind of have to develop a price per item, right? So, for example, on the beadlock rings on these, you know, we like to be like around 150 each. Since it is pretty consuming. You could go up, could go down depending on your overhead. So that puts us at, you know, $600 for the beadlock rings. And you want to do about the same for the faces, since they're about the same process, about the same time. They're just as hard. That's another $600, right? Then for lips, you know, you could be anywhere from $250 to $300 for something like this. For the center caps, another $50 to $60 if they're going a single color. And if they're going two colors, you can pretty much double up on price. Then, you know, you have to take into consideration the time you took to disassemble them, clean them up, and also once they're done, if you're gonna seal them back up, you have to be very careful of how you seal them up. They have to be very clean. The seal job has to be perfect, or they will leak air, and you will have to take them back apart, reseal them. So that's very important when pricing out this project. You know, for us, this is easily a close to $2,000 project. You know, some people do it for less, some people do it for more. It just depends on the shop. Now, we do aim for as perfect results as we possibly can. You know, these are custom sets, so there are things that we're not able to get 100% perfect, but we definitely try our best. As you can see, I'm pointing out, you know, the areas that we mask off. Here's how that color looks with the clear. You saw it without the clear a couple minutes ago. This is what the clear does to it. It completely transforms the color. It makes it a very bright metallic blue. And this is exactly what the customer wanted to match his twin turbo R8, which, by the way, is built by sheepeyrace. Now, the customer didn't want us to disclose the, you know, his name or, you know, who he is. So we're gonna be keeping that on the low. Here you can see me. Now we already sprayed the gloss black on these faces, and now we're basically repeating the process when it comes to wiping the backs, the edges, the center caps. We have to redo that for the third time, but now we have to also vacuum and wipe the windows that are blue and where the lug nuts go. Now here I am with the vacuum at an angle vacuum out the excess powder. This is only half of the job. So far, we have to go back in later and clean it up, make some clean lines. Now this can take anywhere from 30 minutes to 45 minutes. If you mess up during the vacuuming process or the wiping process, that just means that you have to respray that area, which means that you're also going to be getting overspray on any part that you've already done and basically have to restart all over again. So this is one of those high risk jobs where you don't know how much time you're going to be into them. We like to calculate, but it's impossible. On one face I could take 45 minutes, but on the next one, if I mess up 2 or 3 times, it could double up the time. What is the most annoying part is if you screw up as you're about to finish, right? And you have to spray a small area. That just means that you have to go back and basically redo the entire thing, which could put you back up to 2 hours on each one. So obviously for that very reason, you like to get it perfect on the first try, which is for the most part how we do, we're able to do it. Or if you're gonna mess up, you better hope it's at the beginning. So here's kind of how, it starts all black. You're gonna see me start vacuuming here very soon. And while we're vacuuming, I like to touch kind of, on quality of powder coating, right? So this is a very complex job. How you ensure that you get the best results is always by kind of pre-planning your jobs, right? So what that means is before you even touch a set of wheels, a lift kit, whatever you're powder coating, you want to kind of sit down and just plan out the project. That could be, estimating how much materials you're going to use to the sequence of which you're going to be spraying. If it's a 2-tone, 3-stage, whatever it is, you have to pre-plan your project. It gets very tricky when you're dealing with illusion colors like these. If you're dealing with white, pink, anything that could bleed through, you have to be very careful. For example, on these, right, we could have done the black first, spray the illusion out second, wipe the illusion off of the black surface, leaving it only on the windows, then spraying clear over the whole thing. And basically that will make the whole wheel, come out glossy, and it makes the illusion, pop. However, the issue with that is illusion light blue is a very metallic powder, which means that it's almost impossible to completely wipe off. Now we could try, but chances are it's not going to look perfect. So we have to basically do it the opposite way, which is, powder coating the windows, clearing the windows, and then coming back with the gloss black and wiping. So that's something very important to keep in mind, is pre-planning your jobs. You have to know your sequence. And, this is trial and error. Sometimes, you could pre-plan it. You can shoot a sample and it doesn't come out the way you want it. It's honestly just about experience, trial and error, and eventually you'll get there. I've done probably 30, 40 sets of these blacks, if not more. So I've kind of got the groove of the wiping, the vacuuming. However, it still takes a long time. So we definitely want to minimize the mistakes, the errors, and we don't want to also jeopardize the quality for our customers, since, they are paying a relatively high price, or doing a job like this is not cheap. Here you can see Zane acting the fool like always. It's never a dull moment. That's kind of how we get through this long wiping and custom sessions. We just kind of joke around, fool around here and there, try not to take the situation too serious. And that's kind of how we get through these long hours of wiping, vacuuming, and messing up too. Especially when you mess up, you just want to go home, but obviously you can't do that whenever you got to knock out some wheels. So yeah, here we're going to be just wiping away, vacuuming away. And here Zane is, talking about the colors he would do. So drop down in the comments what colors you guys would do if you had a set of blacks, or if you were to send them out to get powder coated. What would you do? Now these are what's called like a T1 version of black wheels. Damien over at Black Industries, they're good partners with T1 Race Development out in Dallas. And what they've done is they've made a T1 spec black wheel, which is, I guess, a design by T1, and on the beadlock ring it says T1. So that's pretty cool. You know, you get to have a little bit of customization depending on who you buy it with, and you end up getting a real high quality wheel if you like to do drag racing. These are billet aluminum faces, probably made out of 6061 billet aluminum. You have a polished welded lip, which now they started doing billet lips too, if you guys are interested. They got the rear barrels, which I believe those are just regular barrels. They're not billet or anything. You got billet center caps, and you can always upgrade to either ARP hardware or titanium. So that's just a little rundown on the wheels, kind of what, you know, Black Industries is about. They're definitely high quality wheels, and we love to do them here in the shop. It's never easy, but it's definitely worth it in the end, as you guys will see towards the end of the video. And something else I like to touch on is time frame right now. I know everybody, once they start getting a lot of jobs, you know, I know you have to sacrifice turnaround times and whatnot, but something that's very important is, you know, being upfront with your customers right now. And not only being upfront, but also just, you know, in a business standpoint, you know, you want to turn around parts as fast as you possibly can, because sitting wheels or sitting projects in your shop, that's not making you money. So currently we're, you know, our turnaround times vary, right? From 3 to 4 days, 3 to 4 weeks, even, you know, if your job is very complicated, or, you know, sometimes whenever you ask a customer, hey, are you in a rush to get this back? You know, when do you expect this to get back by? And, you know, when's a good time for you? Now, some customers will be like, I need this by next week. I need this by tomorrow. And some customers, I'm like, man, take your time, you know, get it done right. I don't really care. And, you know, it could take up a month if it has to, you know, it doesn't matter. So you just kind of got to talk to your customers, see what's good for them. And, you know, we have customers that like their stuff within days, and we have customers that they don't really care. They just want their stuff to be done right. So this is kind of what comes into play, as, you know, when it comes to turnaround time. So obviously parts that are just sitting in your shop, that's not good, right? You want to be turning them around, working on them. You want to be getting your deposits, and you want to be making sure that, you know, when the job is done, your customers are paying for once they're done, you know, regardless if they're picking up or not. Because if you worked on a set of wheels for 1, 2, 3 days, you know, that job, that material, all that is already put into that job. You don't want them to sit in your shop for 2 to 3 weeks without a payment, you know. Now, if they pay you for the project, you know, they could potentially sit in your shop if you have the space. It's no problem, but that's a big no-no when it comes to this. You know, some people like to drop off their parts, and, you know, hey, you know, you tell them, hey, your wheels are done, calipers are done, you know, come pick them up whenever, and they don't show up for 2, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. You know, they kind of forget that they're there, either because, you know, their funds are low and they're not able to pay for it at the time, or they are just not in a rush to get it. So you make sure you're collecting those deposits, you know, collecting those final payments once your projects are done, regardless if they're picking up or not. You know, in this industry, you have to constantly be reinvesting in your business, upgrading equipment. The only way you really grow is by reinvesting in yourself, you know, whether it's marketing, equipment, in your employees, your facility. You know, you want to be utilizing that money, keeping that cash flow coming, so that you can reinvest into your business. You know, the more air you have, the bigger compressor you have, you know, the better blasting setup you can afford. Then the bigger oven you have, you could potentially be getting into the bigger coatings, like bigger projects like stairs, bumpers, you know, railings, if you can get into that stuff, industrial jobs, or just batch work. Even if, you know, you're able to land a job with an automotive company, and let's say they send you 100 turbos a week or 10 intercoolers a day, you know, something like that, that's always good to have. And the bigger your oven is, the bigger your setup, the faster you can turn that around, the faster you can make some money, and the faster your customer, you know, will get their parts back, which in return will lead to them. Something that I recommend, you know, helping you price your jobs is coming up with a weekly kind of overhead or minimum that you have to meet. you know, in order to pay off, you know, any bills that you may have and cover your profits also. So when you come up with a number, then you know, just divide it by day. Like for example, if your weekly goal is, you know, 10 grand a week, right? To cover everything, give you some profit, pay yourself when and whatnot, and leave some for reinvesting. Then, you know, if you work Monday through Friday, that means you have to be coming up with, you know, roughly $2,000 a day to meet that deadline, right? So you can take that into consideration whenever it comes to pricing a job. You know, it's like, okay, this job is gonna take me a day. I'm gonna price it at 2 grand, right? Because that's kind of your deadline job, or you know, you can price it by hour. However, that's one way to do it. You know, there's multiple ways you can make sure your business is profitable, you know, but that main thing is just, you know, pushing out quality work, which in return is going to attract quality customers that, you know, wouldn't mind paying your price. Now here on this beadlock rings, you'll see me wiping the edge. You know, these are fairly difficult when it comes to two-toning them. Some are easier than others. It all depends on the kind of the milling from the CNC machine. Some are very shallow. Like on these, they were pretty shallow, so I basically had to do the lines with all vacuum work. That in itself could be a video, you know, on its own. You guys can let me know in the comments what type of videos you'd like me to drop, whether it's vacuuming, whether it's about sandblasting, spraying, whether it's about two-toning. You know, I can make probably a 1 hour long video just on vacuuming and wiping alone. Tips and tricks, you know, how to hang your parts. As you can see, I even got 2 hooks on there to give me more a better handle on the part. Different parts, you can grab them different ways. You know, you can set them on the table, lay them flat. I can go into a whole another video regarding to that, but I'm just kind of giving you guys an overview. You know, mainly the vacuum with the hose will do the majority of the vacuuming. You can set up smaller hoses for smaller areas, and you know, the goal is to just get the majority of that powder off, you know, maybe 90%, then just come back and wiping the excess powder, making sure you get clean lines. And every time you wipe something, you're gonna have to leave behind a little bit of overspray, so you just kind of have to keep wiping over and over again until it's perfect, you know. And then once the part is perfectly wiped, you want to disturb it as little as possible. So, you know, just set it aside, nowhere near a fan, you know, just wherever it's going to be left alone. That's where you want to leave it, because any wind, fan, you know, any wind from the fan, or you just bumping into it, shaking the rag, you know, even touching the hook might cause particles to float around, and you getting some overspray back. So yeah, I'm wiping the edges here, and I'm kind of just leaving like a clean line with the silicone hose, and that's working pretty well. The end goal is to, you know, to leave as clean lines as possible, you know, or you will be able to tell once the wheels are on the vehicle. So that's just a tip on there, you know, just get most of that powder off, and then you can just come back and wipe it. You always want to use a clean towel, you know, for wiping, or just your shirt or something. But every time you go back in and wipe, you know, your finger has to be clean, and that's also how you get the best results. Now here, you know, once everything's done, now we have to prep for the assembly. So we have to scratch off, or, you know, scrape off any silicone that was already on there, you know, in the larger chunks. And then we have to come back and clean it up. I'm using like some sort of plastic cup on a die grinder, and that's doing a very good job of cleaning up the metal but not removing material. As you can see, it's removing any old silicone, any grease and whatnot, and then, you know, leaving a clean surface, as you can see on here. But after this, you still want to wipe it off with acetone or alcohol to get any contaminants off, because remember, this is where the silicone is going to seal both lips, and this is going to basically hold the air from the tire. So you want to clean up with acetone to get any contaminants off, so that the silicone does not lift under, you know, high PSI from the tire. You want to make sure it's adhered to that lip and barrel very well. Here, what the beadlock rings look like after curing, they look very slick, very glossy, very nice. And we have to repeat the same cleaning process for the rear barrels. You know, since these are mating together, you want to make sure they're both very clean. Now, this does take some time. You know, it's all about prep. Even to the end, you know, you have to be prepping stuff for the assembly. If you're doing 3-piece wheels constantly, you know, you're gonna develop a routine for this, and it gets pretty easy after, you know, after you've done it a couple times. Some people skip out the clean or prep process on these, and the wheels will end up leaking right away. Now, it depends on the silicone you get. Also, will determine how they seal. We use clear silicone that I believe cures in 24 hours. So after the silicone is applied, you want to go ahead and just let them sit for 24 hours, no air. I believe you can put the tires on, but no air. And you just want to let them sit until that silicone cures, hardens, and then you can put some air on them. Some people don't wait that 24 hours and they end up leaking because that silicone is still soft. And here we are just cleaning away, you know, getting rid of any material still on there. Since we're in the topic of assembly, right, you know, there's an art to it. Whenever you're assembling wheels, calipers, whatever it is that you've coated, if you're doing your own install on a lift kit or something, you know, you want to make sure your handling of a freshly powder coated part is top notch. Also, you know, wear your gloves if you're going to be handling the part with your hands a lot, you know, like a lift kit. You know, if you're doing wheels like these, you know, make sure you tape off the lips if you're going to put them on a hard surface, or, you know, put some cardboard, kind of how I did here. It kind of prevents any nicks and scratches. Then also, whenever you're assembling the wheels and faces, throw some gloves on. That prevents fingerprints, you know, scratches from your nails. You got to be very careful that you don't scratch a freshly powder coated surface. That just ensures, you know, your customer is going to be happy once they get them back and they still look brand new even after being handled. That's a very big plus. You know, you don't want to spend a couple $1,000s on some powder coated parts and they come back already scratched with micro scratches, which, you know, it happens. Powder coat wheels micro scratch just like paint. You will get swirls. So you want to avoid that before your customer gets the parts. You know, you have to be very careful how you handle them. Treat them as they were yours, and kind of like if they were a baby, you know. Taping anything off, masking off things that can get scratched. On calipers, I like to wrap the whole caliper in plastic just so I can move them around, handle them, and not have my fingerprints as, you know, potential scratches all over them. You know, whenever you're putting pistons back on calipers, you have to kind of use some force. So just keep that in mind whenever you're rebuilding stuff, assembling stuff. Always keep that in mind. You want to do a clean install, a clean assembly, clean rebuild. Always keep that in mind. It goes a long way to you and your business. Gives you a good reputation, you know, for handling parts. And this is just something that not many take into consideration when doing something like this. Which leads into the next category of, you know, how do I take care of my powder coated parts? You know, you have to, if you're doing this for a business or if you're watching this as a customer, it will help both of you guys. You know, if I just receive my wheels from powder coating, how do I take care of them? What do I keep them away from? What's going to mess up the finish? You know, how do I clean them up? How do I ensure that this coating is going to last me years and years and years, as it should? And the answer to that is, you know, whenever it comes down to washing your parts, always wash them with a non-degreaser, and, you know, nothing that's aggressive, nothing too acidic, nothing that's gonna, you know, dole out the clear or powder, such as, you know, you want to stay away from brake cleaners and harsh degreasers. You know, just use stuff that you will use in a very nice paint job. It's basically the same thing, you know, just something with a cleaning agent, and, you know, clean microfiber towels. That's kind of what you want to stick to. Just wash the powder coat as if you're washing your really nice paint. Same thing applies. It is very durable, you know, it's very hard, very durable, very flexible, but it could potentially get, you know, chemical stains, you know, acid stains, and that's not something you want. So just keep that in mind whenever it comes to washing and cleaning them up. You know, if you're doing this as a business, make sure you explain that to your customer so they're not texting you a photo of a very doled out wheel in 2 weeks or a month and be like, hey, you know, I just got these wheels done by you. They look like crap, you know. So just make sure you tell your customers, teach them on how to take care of their coating. A lot of people have a misconception that powder coating is indestructible, and it's not, you know. Here where you see me resealing them, it's fairly simple. You just put the caulking, it's basically a caulking silicone. You put it on the gun. Make sure you throw a nice even bead on there, finish it off with your finger, and I'll usually, you know, leave a very flat and nice line. Make sure you're cleaning it up with acetone prior, blowing it off with air, and boom, that's how you get a perfect seal, and a very clean one at that. Now here I'm throwing out the beadlock rings. We're getting ready to wrap this set of wheels. It takes a lot of hardware to build one of these set of wheels. Lots of hardware, and it's titanium, so very nice. You're gonna see me throw on the caps here probably at the end, maybe not, but yeah, very nice set of wheels. Turned out very good. They're gonna be going on a twin turbo R8 built by sheepeyrace, and hope you guys enjoyed the video, the results, the process. There's definitely an art to this powder coating, you know, industry, and you have to take pride into what you do. We definitely do. And if you guys want to follow us on Instagram, you can follow us at Boosted Power Coatings on Instagram, and you can see most of our work on there. Not all of it, because it's hard to, you know, videotape and photograph everything, but you can see most of our projects on there. And if you need a project done, you can also hit us up on there. Or if you want some advice, if you're running a business, feel free to hit me up on there, or just drop a comment on the video. I'll be watching and, you know, replying. But yeah, guys, so drop a like if you like the video, subscribe if you want to see more, and let me know what you guys want to see in the future. Peace.